Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. Happy Monday. Today is Monday, April 25th, last week of April 2022. I can't believe it. I'm excited to have this young lady on the show. Leah Thomas is with us. We're going to talk. I love the topic. I thought I was finished healing. I was wrong. This is Child Abuse Awareness Month, April. And so we have a lot of things to talk about. Leah is a dear friend, an amazing asset to an organization I belong to, and I'm very excited for her to come on and share her journey. Welcome, Leah. How are you today?
Hey, Ted. Thank you. I am doing really well. Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday. I love your background. I have to say how awesome that background is.
Thank you. It's a little bit of Jumanji for you.
It's totally Jumanji. Mine looks like I'm actually in an office because guess what, guys? I am. I'm at my office today. But enough about me. Leah, I told you before we went live that the audience loves an origin story. So tell them a little bit about you and who Leah Thomas is.
Okay. Hi. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. Yes, it is a
Okay.
musical. Yes. You can all sing along with me later. But, but really, born in Oklahoma, got the theater bug, went to college in South Carolina, ended up living in South Florida for a while, and found my way to graduate school in Orlando at UCF. And Orlando is kind of like a promised land space in my story, and it has been two times now in my life. The first time was when I was needing a place to go and leave South Carolina. I came to Orlando, and it became a really great healing ground for me for some of the things that we're talking about today. And then I moved to Ohio and was working there professionally for a couple of years before COVID happened. And I lost my job in the arts, unfortunately, but I did have the chance to start over again. So once again, Florida became my promised land. Laugh if you will, but I love it here. And I've spent the last year and a half completely rebuilding my life and career, and along with that, dealing with random healing aspects that I thought maybe were taken care of, but we're not. And so thus the timely conversation today.
All right, so let's take a deep dive. This is your topic, your show.
Yeah.
I'll put it out there that I've said it before, I'm a childhood abuse victim. I'm a survivor. I like to refer to myself as survivor rather than victim, but I don't want to take away from people who've gone through it. So I have a great deal of passion about this topic. But that is my story, which I've shared on here a million times. Share with us your journey.
Yeah. So Ted, I think I just want to thank you for sharing that, not only with your platform, but with me. I think it's interesting because one of the reasons why I felt connected to talk to you about this is hearing about your journey with cancer. And it's not that you can compare certain traumas to each other and say, well, it's the same, but there are components that are similar in how you deal with physical trauma, mental trauma, and emotional trauma. And so I am an adult victim of rape, and it happened about 9 years ago now. And I was living in South Carolina at the time, and felt completely destroyed. It was someone who I knew. It was someone who a lot of people in my community knew. And I started this process of figuring out how to navigate as an adult conversation around abuse. How do you tell your friends? How do you know who to trust? Do you even have to talk about it? All of these questions started happening, and I've just learned a few things over the last 9 years that I know some of my dear friends have appreciated being able to ask me about what's the right response. If someone tells you that they've been abused or that they've been hurt or raped or whatever word they're comfortable using, what do you say?
Because we
And
don't know. People just
No.
don't know, and you don't know what the right thing is to do. Do I not say anything and pretend like it didn't happen? Or
Right.
do I say something? Is that going to make them feel weird? And then as a victim, survivor, there's a stigma still attached to it.
Yeah.
Even though it happened to you, there's
Yeah.
still a stigma attached to it talking about
It is. You suddenly have to become the victim, the survivor, the educator, the person who brings it up in conversation. And then you have to figure out how to have a friendship or whatever relationship you had with the person who you told. So oftentimes it's easier to not say anything. And that is okay. The purpose of today's talk is not to try to push anyone to divulge their, truth to anyone if you're not comfortable. But the Me Too movement has come and is here, and I like to think of it more as, okay, Me Too, but now what?
Like what? It brought so much to light that needed to be brought to light. It uncovered a lot of roaches and critters that are below roaches, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But then there seemed to be a stagnation in it, and then once you became part of it, you didn't know what was next. Now, what am I supposed to do? I've now told the world my most intimate scenario, Me Too.
Yeah.
And now how do I maneuver through that? How do I navigate through that?
Right. And it's hard. So I have a couple of things to share with for the members who are watching who maybe you know someone who was abused, or maybe they've had the conversation with you and you still don't know what to say. Statistically, 1 in 3 women are abused. 1 in 3 women that have gone through some kind of sexual abuse. And that's not to negate anything that men go through. I believe it's 1 in 5 men. But men and women all have this issue, and it's not okay to just say that it's only a woman's issue. This is a human issue. And so I have a few responses that I just wanted to share that are helpful if someone tells you that they have been abused. One of them is, I'm really glad you're here now. Bring them to the moment. They're here. You're having a conversation. They've just probably gone into their memory to say, hey, this happened to me. But guess what? You're here now, and I'm so thankful to be in this moment with you.
I love that.
Right? Another one is to say, just thank you. Thank you for trusting me with that information. Just like it's awkward, if someone in your life passes away, you kind of are at a loss for words and you would just want to say, I'm sorry. I find the same pattern and instinct occurs if you're sharing abuse with someone. They want to say, I'm so sorry. It is okay to say, I'm sorry that happened to you. It is a little stronger and more empowering to say, wow, thank you for telling me that. I'm glad you're here. Another option to say is, that's not your fault. That is not your fault, because it is never, ever the victim's fault, period.
I don't care what you say, it is never.
And I liken this to having your car broken into, okay? A couple of weeks ago, my car was broken into, and some things were stolen out. And I felt really like my space was invaded, and
violated.
Yes, you're violated. And as I'm having conversations with people about my car, the first question was, oh, well, were the windows rolled down? No. If they were rolled down, is that still an invitation for someone to steal things? Right? It's not. Someone chose to steal. Same thing with the car doors being locked. Well, did you lock it? I honestly don't remember if I locked it or not. Well, Leah, you got what you deserved. You were basically welcoming someone into your car.
I used to get that as a child. It would be, well, what did you do wrong?
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating thing to want to lay blame on the victim rather than the person who perpetrated the whole thing. And I used to fight against that as a kid. And I know many rape survivors, and they had to, it's almost like people will ask questions, well, what were you dressed like? Like it is the most bizarre thought process to me. But again, I think this comes back to educating. People don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for the words of wisdom that you're
Yeah. They want you to take responsibility for something that you can't take responsibility for. Um, and so just saying it's not your fault is really empowering. Hey, I know you. I'm sorry that happened to you. It's not your fault.
giving.
Because that's the truth. Um,
But your head plays games with you.
yeah.
Well, I could have done this different. What if I had been more careful when I was walking to my car, or
Yeah.
any of the things that victims go through that
Oh,
led
yeah.
up to it? You're constantly piecing that in your mind, going through it over and over again. And so you get stuck blaming yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I've learned to really appreciate when people hear a part of my story is saying, wow, I had no idea how strong you are. Um, highlight the strength in the moment. Someone is telling you something about themselves, highlight their strength and focus on what is true. With Ted, when I read your story about having cancer, immediately, I go into this place in my head as well of like, oh my God, I had no idea. Should I send him a card and say, I'm sorry you had cancer? Should I, what, like, where do I
Well,
go?
who knows? You can
Right?
You can send me booze if you'd like, but
Okay. But the thing that I like to come back to as a survivor, as someone who not only was able to confront my rapist in the face and not get any kind of apology, as someone who has rebuilt relationships with people in my family who didn't know how to respond, and now have been educated along the years, come back to what's true. What do I know about Ted? Ted, I know that you are strong. I know that your experiences do not define your identity.
right.
You are not just cancer survivor or abuse survivor. You are Ted.
Yes.
You are kind. You are loving. You're exuberant. You're intelligent. You're smart. You're successful. And I know all of these things to be true. So no matter what you tell me, I can go back to these true things and say, here's who you are to me. And that doesn't change based on what you've gone through.
Can I ask you, as you're sharing these, my first thought is, did you get this kind of response personally in the beginning? Did you have a support system, or is this what you have learned processing this all on your own?
Yes, I did not get this response at the beginning. I got the latter of like well, didn't you know what you were doing, or are you sure that really happened? I got those kind of questions,
Oh
and
my
I
God,
got,
are you sure that really happened?
are you sure that's what happened? Yes, I am sure that that's what happened. And I got the response, well, there was drinking involved, so it's your fault. That's what drunk people get.
Wow.
I will say at the time I did have a support group. I was going to a church that supported me hands down. And it was, if you had asked me that as a kid growing up in church, I would say that didn't exist, that there wasn't a church or anyone who knows Jesus who would say, hey, I love you, and that's not your fault, and you're going to get through this. But I had a church group surround me with love and support. I ended up being homeless during the stint of this because of how volatile the social situation was where I lived. I didn't know who to live with. I didn't have anyone to live with. And so this church literally took me in and helped me heal. And even at a time when I thought, God is not in this. Like, I thank you for saying it's not my fault, but I can't talk about God's role in this, or if he's even here at all. We're not there yet. And so one of the big lessons for me that I've learned over the last 9 years is how I see the presence of the Lord and the presence of redemption working in my life in different ways because of this. And I was not ready to have that conversation, 9
That's
years
such
ago.
a great point. I think you have to be ready. Because immediately I know when things happen, people, I'll pray for you. Or I had a friend who lost a child, and he said, I don't want to hear about your prayers right now.
Yeah.
Because you're angry, you're distraught, you feel like you've been deserted and abandoned. And
Yeah.
if you're a faith person, that is a very difficult place to be. But from it, obviously, if you continue on your journey, you usually find that ability to understand what's going on and
Yeah.
understand that you weren't abandoned necessarily. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love that you shared that, because I think a lot of people want to push, well, just pray about it. If you're not in the headspace, yeah, you're not going to receive that. So the tips that Leah is giving you are the better ways, the more encouraging, positive ways that
Yeah.
you can help someone, instead of what it's just like when somebody passes. One of my pet peeves is, I'm so sorry for your loss. There's no exclamation point. There's no,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you couldn't have come up with anything. Hey, I'm heartbroken for you. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
It's because we don't know what to say that
Yeah.
we hang on to that one thing. Well, I'm going to
Yeah.
pray for you, or I'm so sorry for your loss, and
Yeah.
we don't embrace it or go deeper.
We don't. And honestly, I just don't think we can stay in that place. I don't think that we as humans who are seeking connection after 2 years of this horrible virus and pandemic, we are now at a place where I'm sorry for your loss does not cut it. And so feel that tension, but like lean into it. Know your relationship with someone, be able to focus on the truth, tell them thank you for sharing these awful things with you, and saying that it's awful, that shouldn't have happened to you. Just
So
sharing in a
powerful.
moment again is so empowering. You are then joining with that person to go into the next step of their healing. No, you don't have to be a therapist. They are not asking you to be their therapist. They are asking you to be a friend. And if they're inviting you into this moment with them, they want a deeper friendship with you, a deeper kind of relationship that is authentic and real. And again, as we move forward out of these years that have bred isolation and anxiety and depression, that is needed more than ever. So if you're scared of saying the wrong thing, it's okay. It's okay to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
It's okay. You will likely say the wrong thing. I have said the wrong thing to people.
I have too. It's not that I know the answer every time, but I try to be cognizant of it, because I've been on the
Right.
receiving end of it, and I want to make sure it's personalized and that I'm really trying to meet them where they are rather than what I'm comfortable saying.
Right. There's this African proverb that I really clung to in my earlier healing process. By the way, this was not just all self-revelation through healing, okay? I spent about 1.5 years in trauma therapy in South Carolina. And I tell you, that therapist saved my life. For a long time, hers was the only voice in my life saying it was not my fault. And I needed that. So trauma therapy is so helpful. There is a place in Orlando that offers trauma therapy if you're a victim. Ted, I'm with you. I have mixed feelings about identifying as a victim versus survivor.
It's a weird place to be. I don't want to ever minimize anybody, because each person is at a different stage of what they feel.
Yeah.
I like the word survivor.
I do too.
But I don't want to take away if somebody's still in the deep throes of what happened to them, then they're feeling like a victim, and I want them to go through that.
I agree with you. There's a place called the Rosen Centre of Orlando, and they have a hotline 24 hours that helps, and that will identify the kind of help that you need. I didn't even know how to define rape when it happened to me. I told a friend of mine, and she said, that sounds kind of not okay. Did you call the police? No, why would I call the police? Well, because it sounds like rape. And you're like, oh my God. So a friend of mine spoke truth into a story that I was sharing with her and helped me figure out how to really put it into context. So I just Googled rape help and got a hotline number, and there was a place in South Carolina. So the hotline, I love a good hotline. It saved me. It helped me.
It saves so many people. And whenever I see hotlines getting cut, it drives me crazy from a budget
Yeah.
perspective. We need to
Yeah.
support those because most people, I mean, that's their like one phone call. It's like their lifeline. And if they don't get somebody on the other end or they can't find the resource, then who knows
Yeah.
what can
It's
happen.
it's done. So there's a proverb that says the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. And I've always found a lot of comfort in that. I believe that I've taken on that role in my life, where I choose to remember. I choose to rebuild relationships that were hurt or cut loose relationships that do not serve me in that way. I had a lot of friends who doubted and continued to say it was my fault, and they're no longer in my life, because I get to choose that.
You do. There's a power there that comes from going through the process, which you continue to go through, which is what this is about. I thought I was finished healing. I was wrong because we talked before we went live. It still rears its ugly head to me, and it's been 40, 50 some years, 40 some years. And so you are always dealing with it. The axe in the tree is such a great proverb to describe that. And so you have to figure out your tools, and you have to take control of where the toxicity is and cut it.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in cutting that toxicity out, because there's no way for you to continue to heal and grow if you're still allowing those people to poison you and your life.
I agree with you. So it's empowering. I really respect and love that you're also an advocate for healing, but also through self-identifying through your own experiences. I choose to be that as well in my circles. And I truly believe that for those who can bear the weight and choose to remember, we can continue to change the way that people respond and know how to respond to trauma and hurt as we continue to try to do this life together. Life is nuts. And it's, like I said earlier, it's not enough anymore to just say, I'm sorry, and what you're going through doesn't impact me.
Yes.
It's now the challenge of, that shouldn't have happened to you, and I'm going to stand with you, and let's try to take a step forward in whatever that means.
Beautifully said. All right, Leah, before we head out, I could talk to you for hours about this, you know. I feel like you're a hero. You're an inspiration. I feel like when you are in a place where you're at, which, by the way, neither of us are saying we're in the perfect place. I don't know if you ever get there. If you are a faith person, you know you never get there. But so I want you to share. I'm sure you have a hero. When I say that word to you, who's the first person that comes to mind?
So her name was Susan, and she passed from breast cancer. And she was my support. I knew her. I was kind of her adopted daughter through undergrad. And she always would send me care packages and cards to encourage me. And she was so supportive. Like, she always gave me a listening ear, whether she liked what I had to tell her or not. And to me, that was a hero. She saw the good and bad in me and continued to walk with me.
That's beautiful. I love it. You are such a blessing. I loved you the very first minute I met you at that event. I'm like, oh my God, yes. This is the energy we need. This is the person we need.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for engaging and embracing me and developing our friendship relationship, because you're a beautiful person and a great reminder of, hey, there's other victims out there, Ted. There's other survivors out there, and we have to really continue to push through, because there's people coming up behind us that they're not where we're at. And they need help, and they need love, and they need passion and compassion and empathy and all those good things. What's the best way, Leah, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, goodness. You can find me on Facebook. You can also send me an email if you'd like. I don't mind sharing that. I feel like every store, in the whole world has my email address. But my email address is Leah Thomas, 918@gmail.com. I just forgot it. But you can find me on Facebook, Leah M. Thomas. I would happily just help you find and connect to some
And if you
areas.
can't find her, I'll get you to her. You got a lot of love on all the platforms, so we'll go back in.
Yeah.
Thank you for, it's a risk still when you share
Yeah.
your journey. It is still, there's still bits and pieces of pain. You're still the tree.
Yeah.
And so it is, it's a lot. And I appreciate you taking the risk and opening up, because I know it has and will continue to impact people who don't even know it yet and maybe needed to hear this
Thank
today.
you,
So
Ted. Thanks for using your platform to do the same. Like it's such a joy knowing you.
joy knowing you too. All right, Leah M. Thomas, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll be back sometime this week. We love you guys. Reach out if you're hurting or suffering. There are hotlines. If you don't know where the hotline is, message me, message Leah. We will get you to one. Don't go through it alone, and don't think no one cares, because they do. All right, guys. We'll see you soon.